There is no question I have a fondness for sunset photos. There is no doubt about that. Retirement, however, has maybe changed the way I look out at the evening light or anticipate the evening light. When I was working, sunsets were often what I'd see out the office window, or maybe I'd see them as they were on the side as I drove home from work, or something I saw through the windshield as I was thinking about tomorrow's meeting schedule. But now, retired, I kind of wait for that sky and look forward to the sky turning red and then gold. And so one afternoon last month, I was out on the back porch and I was just reading, and I was kind of keeping an eye on the sky. It had been cloudy all day. It was warm. By that time, most of our January snow had melted, which was nice because it wasn't as cold anymore. And I just kept watching, and the clouds were moving out, and I thought, maybe tonight I can get that perfect golden hour picture. Maybe a nice reflection across some pond or lake that I'd like to go to. I really didn't set out to get anything dramatic. I mean, after all, I knew there weren't going to be any waterfalls where I could go within a few minutes, and certainly there were no mountain ranges nearby. I wasn't in Colorado or Wyoming anymore. Wasn't any 10,000-mile road trip through national parks or anything. I just had in mind a pond or two, or maybe a small lake that wasn't too far away. Maybe I could get a nice reflection of the sun off the water, and it was starting to show promise. I hopped in the car and drove down to the park, and I thought, no, I'm going to go down to the bigger lake and see if I can get that reflection as I've done in previous times there. And the sky was starting to turn gold slowly, not all at once. There was a kind of a warm glow, a faint warmth, but nothing dramatic yet. And so I walked down to the water's edge, and I realized I didn't have the right angle. I was not going to be able to get the reflection that I'd hoped to get. And then I hear the geese. I mean, they're honking. Geese can be annoying with their sound. They are sure pretty to watch on the water. And so I turned and looked at the geese, and I was kind of struck by the fact that there were little groups kind of swimming around, going each their own little path, seemed to be in little family clusters, maybe just buddies, I don't know. But they were all kind of going their own direction, but none of them were alone. While they were swimming, I thought, what if I just go down the trail a little further, get down to the other side or maybe at the end of the lake, and maybe I could get the right angle on the sun. Sure enough, I was rewarded. By the time I'd walked down that far, the sun was starting to really get bold and gold. And in fact, the water now looked like there were big golden lamps underneath it, just turning it into this wonderful golden pond. And that's when I noticed the geese. Now, at first, they were off in the distance, so I cranked the zoom on the telephoto, and there's those geese, just not in a V formation overhead or anywhere, but in a line, quiet, still, purposeful. And I couldn't help but think, that's retirement too. When you're younger and still working, life feels kind of like flight. Fast, loud, sometimes coordinated, sometimes not. You're trying to keep up with a career, the kids, the mortgages, the deadlines. But later, when you're retired, well, it kind of feels like this pond. You're still moving, still headed somewhere, but you're doing it at your own pace. I watched those geese for quite a while, took a lot of photos of them. Some of the geese were, they were all together. None of them were alone. Some were slightly ahead, some were lagging behind, but they kind of stayed in that line. It's almost like they were connected by some invisible sense of belonging. Well, that's family, and that's legacy. That's the reason I've been talking so much lately about telling your story. Because one day, someone else will look out across that stretch of water and remember you were there doing what you wanted. Photography has given me, in retirement, something I really didn't expect. Not just images, perspective. You know, it's easy to think that great photos should be at epic locations, and I do enjoy those. You know, I love the Grand Tetons. I love Yellowstone and Old Faithful and Mount Rushmore and the Cumberland Falls and the Rocky Mountain parks and the Great Smoky National Park. And there are just so many wonderful places, but you don't have to have those epic locations. You know what? Sometimes the best image is the one that's just a few miles away. And sometimes the lesson isn't in the landscape. It's in the silhouettes. It's in the shadows. The light faded quickly that evening, and of course it always does. Golden hour doesn't last very long. But that's part of the beauty, and it's part of the challenge as a photographer. And retirement feels a little like that too, not in a sad way, but in a precious way. It's a season where the light is softer, warmer, more intentional. I have a little reminder that comes up every day. Stay intentional. You notice things. You wait for the moment. You press the shutter at the right time. At least you hope you do. And then you're grateful when you're there to see it, no matter how the photos turn out. So where are you in life's journey? Maybe you're still flying hard. Maybe you're bumping around in the plane. Maybe you're about to touch down. Maybe you are touching down. Or maybe you're gliding quietly across the calm water. Well, wherever you are in your journey, stay in the line, stay connected. Whether you're flying, landing, or drifting quietly, stay steady, stay connected, be attentive to what matters, and be sure to tell your story so your kids remember all of that. I'm Dr. Vore. Thanks for watching. Now go tell your story.